We got some good news, even if it is from the past. I'll explain in a minute. Welcome back to Cardinals Daily. I'm Eddie Law. If you're already part of the squad, appreciate you for riding with us. And if you're new here, smash that sub button. It really helps out the channel. And the more we grow, the better content we'll be able to bring you guys. So, Red Sea, let's get right to it. The list of Hall of Fame hopefuls has been released, of course, earlier in the year. And it's been whittled down to 50, with 5 of them being former Arizona Cardinals. So it's exciting times for those guys. So list of famers was actually brought in for the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame, was whittled down from 128 to 50, and we got six former Cardinals on there for Gold Jackets. On the list are offensive tackle Lomas Brown. He played for the Cardinals from 96 to 98, but he's mostly known for his time with the Detroit Lions. But still, hell of a lineman, and he played forever. That dude didn't stop playing until like 2002. If you guys were watching football in 2002, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Defensive lineman John Abraham. Abraham spent most of his career with the New York Jets and then the Atlanta Falcons before signing with the Cardinals in 2013. In his lone season in Cardinal red, he recorded something like 11 and a half sacks. Unfortunately, he suffered a head injury in week 1 of the 2014 season the following year, and doctors found that he suffered a brain bleed. In fact, bleeding from both sides, which is scary, right? He actually ran his head into a hip of I forgot what team we were playing, but he ran his head into a hip of a lineman. And that was kind of it. And then, after discussing with then head coach Bruce Arians, our last real head coach, he took a leave of absence, which turned into the team putting him on IR, and he never played again. So, really kind of a sad way to end his career. But he finished his career with 133 and a half sacks, 47 forced fumbles, 148 tackles for a loss, and an interception. Incredible career. Defensive lineman Simeon Rice. Now, Rice was drafted by the Cardinals, 3rd overall in 1996. Now, admittedly, didn't have the best time with the Cardinals, right? Weird run with us, of course, doing things like playing for the USBL during the offseason, which really upset a lot of fans. But he was still balling out. In 4 seasons with the Cardinals, he recorded 51 and a half sacks, averaging over 10 per season while he was here. But at the end of his contract, he was, I think the phrase that was used was he was sick of being here. So, is what it is. All right, linebacker Terrell Suggs, T-Sizzle, spent most of his career with the Baltimore Ravens, winning a Super Bowl with them before signing with the Cardinals in 2019. The former Arizona State Sun Devil and Hamilton High School football player. If you're local here in Arizona, you know up in Chandler, Hamilton High School is a football powerhouse in the Valley. He would leave the Cardinals during the season, unfortunately, thanks to Cliff, you clown, and signed with the Chiefs and ended up winning a Super Bowl. So 2 Super Bowls, 2 rings, ended his career on a high note. So good for him. Not the big ones. Wide receiver Anquan Boldin, one of the toughest, most reliable receivers to ever play the game. AB, man, we used to call him Q. I don't know why the Ravens people call him, some Ravens fans call him AB, but it's Q, all right? Listen, Q. Q officially is up for the football, again, for the Football Hall of Fame. And let me just say right now, he deserves it. Get him in there. All right, Q wasn't just good. He was elite from day one. Do you guys know how elite? All right, Rookie of the Year in 2003, 217 receiving yards in his very first NFL game, 10 catches against the Detroit Lions. Still an NFL record to this day. 3-time Pro Bowler, over 1,000 receiving yards in 7 different seasons. I think it was like 13,780 career receiving yards. That's top 15 all time. We're not even talking about fringe numbers here. We're talking production on the level of certified legends, right? But here's where Q separated himself from the stat guys. Playoff pedigree and toughness, all right? This man broke his face, like all over his face, and was back on the field 2 games later. He was the heart of that 2008 Cardinals Super Bowl run right next to Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald, scoring twice in the NFC Championship, and then later went on to Baltimore and got himself a ring there. I can't hate him. When he left and went to the Ravens, I wasn't mad at him. It is what it is. I just wish he would have been able to do it here. But he led the team in receiving throughout that playoff stretch. So, elite, legendary career. Go ask Ravens fans if they win that ring without Anquan Boldin. They'll tell you no. People love to talk about clutch, right? Q was clutch before clutch was fashionable, right? No diva, ego is quiet, all right? No look at me theatrics, really. This grown man football every single Sunday. He was fearless over the middle. Took hits that would retire most receivers. You guys remember one. Kurt Warner actually sent him to the hospital with one of those hospital balls, and still something that Kurt Warner remembers to this day. But he took hits like that would end careers. And then he moved the chains when you needed it. Look, back at that time, if you needed a first down, you had 2 options. Anquan Boldin or Larry Fitzgerald, and they both hit every time. When you think of that, of what the Hall of Fame should represent, right? Longevity, impact, championship moments, toughness, leadership. Q checks every single box. So here's the bottom line. If you're going to honor wide receivers who changed the game, Anquan Boldin absolutely belongs in Canton. Not eventually, not maybe someday, now. Because if the Hall of Fame is truly about football greatness, one of the most respected men to ever step on that field, long overdue for his gold jacket. And it's just on the side note here, he used to, Anquan Boldin and the Cardinals used to come play basketball at Lifetime Fitness here in Tempe. And back then, it was still early on, so the memberships of that gym were still affordable. And so I had one, and I used to go play basketball every single day, really. But during the off season, Q and the Cardinals would show up to play. And let me tell you, Q was competitive at all times. He didn't care. He yelled at me for playing defense on him because his hands are right, and he went up for a layup, and I wanted to contest it. He got in my face about it, but I was like 19, so you can get mad if you want to, bro. But it is what it is. All right, another probably like the legendary Cardinal. You guys know exactly who I'm talking about. Wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. For Fitz, it's not should he get in. It's not does he deserve it. It's simply when he goes in, because Larry Fitzgerald is a first ballot, no debate, Hall of Famer, future football immortal. Let's start with the resume because it's absurd. It's insane. 1,432 receptions, second most in the NFL history. 17,492 receiving yards, second most in NFL history. 11 Pro Bowls, first team All-Pro, Walter Payton Man of the Year, top 5 in literally every major receiving category that matters. Not just longevity, elite production for over a decade straight. Now, numbers don't tell the full story. Larry Fitzgerald is Arizona Cardinals football. That 2008 playoff run is one of the greatest in NFL history. 546 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns in just 4 games, right? That's a playoff record that still stands, I believe. So he took over the NFC Championship, almost single-handedly won the Super Bowl with that iconic 64-yard catch and run. When have you ever seen Larry run that fast? Never, right? Scored that within the 3 minutes of it. If it's not for freaking Santonio Holmes, right, we'd be calling Larry Fitzgerald a Super Bowl MVP, Larry Fitzgerald. But it's the intangibles that make him the Hall of Fame legend, not just a Hall of Fame receiver, right? No diva behavior, never a contract holdout, no drama, just leadership, loyalty, class, and greatness. And he stayed in Arizona even when other players were begging him to leave, right? He made Kurt Warner better. He made Carson Palmer better. He elevated every quarterback that ever threw him the ball, even when they weren't elite. He even helped Kyler Murray when he got in there as a rookie, right? He was basically playing tight end at that point because Larry Fitzgerald was sure hands. Larry Fitzgerald, Fitz, isn't just an NFL great. He's a blueprint for what a franchise cornerstone should look like. So he's first ballot. Zero debate. Like, the bus is already carved. It has to be, right? Larry Fitzgerald doesn't just get into the Hall of Fame. They should walk him in and turn the lights on. Plain and simple. Larry Fitzgerald is Arizona Cardinals football to this day. If you talk about Arizona Cardinals football, Larry Fitzgerald is the only thing that comes to mind. That and Kyler Murray, unfortunately, right now, and not for great reasons, right? So we've been talking plenty about who should be QB1. Who should we start? Should it be Kyler? Should it be Jacoby? But it's mostly you guys, leave in the comments, correct me if you think I'm wrong. But most of the talk we're hearing these days is why Kyler shouldn't be the starter, right? But we haven't talked about what Kyler needs to do to keep the job. So I figured, come up with something, right? Let me know what you think. What does he have to do? He needs to stop playing small in big moments. I know, he's tiny. He's 5'9" on a good day, right? But Kyler's had flashes, right? We've all seen it. Elite talent, playmaker, extension-worthy athlete. But great quarterbacks aren't defined by flashes, right? They're defined by fourth quarters, by consistency, right? And that is where Kyler Murray has gone ghost way too often, okay? When the game tightens up, Kyler must show up. He must show up. He must show he can move the chains, not panic. He's got to, he's got to make the throws, make completions, and move the ball. No more falling apart in the fourth quarter. No more 3 and outs with the game on the line. If you want to be a franchise quarterback, the final 5 minutes have to be your time every single week. It's got to be Kyler time, straight up. Trust the offense, man. Stop bailing out early. Kyler has lived off improvisation his whole life, and that's part of what makes him dangerous, but it's also part of the problem. When he bails from clean pockets, he kills entire drives, okay? The coaching staff, this scheme, right, that we're running, it's designed to hit timing, rhythm, progression throws. That's every scheme, really, but especially this one. He must commit to being a real field general, not a backyard freelancer, right? You want proof when it matters, right? Look what Jacoby Brissett did. Within the system, no chaos. He doesn't run like Kyler Murray. He's not the athlete Kyler Murray is, but the offense looks way better. That's the reality. The tape doesn't lie. That's what it is with him, right? We've seen what his offense looks like with a guy that doesn't panic back there. Kyler Murray is the definition of panic at the moment. So it is what it is. But he needs to change that. Now, what else he needs to do? Lead like the face of the franchise. Okay, Let's keep it 100, man. Kyler's leadership has been questioned publicly, and it damn sure should be. Former players, media, even the organization itself. Remember, you guys remember that the film study clause, right? You got to have so many hours per week. I still don't understand how that went public. That got leaked on some wild stuff. All right. But it got leaked, and it is what it is, and that was the start of, in my mind, that's the start of the kind of like the end of that relationship between the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, because that definitely soured then, and it doesn't seem to have gotten much better since then. So if Kyler wants to be the long-term, quarterback still, he wants to keep the team. He needs to own the huddle, right? Own the sideline, own the failures. No more slumped shoulders, no more throwing fits like a toddler, no more body language emojis. You got to elevate, man. That's what franchise quarterbacks do. Forget the talent. The locker room has to believe you're the guy, right? This is a fork in the road for Kyler Murray. If he does these three things, in my mind, these three, close games, master the system, lead like a real quarterback, he'll still the face of the Cardinals, right? But if he keeps coming in, slumping the shoulders, trying to play hero ball and panicking when it matters, and then when it doesn't work out, getting really upset and throwing a fit, and failing to lead, Monty's gonna move on. He's gonna have to, right? We're possibly gonna have a new head coach soon, and that guy's not gonna want to have the old quarterback. He's gonna want to have his choice. Something we gotta think about, right? There are quarterbacks in this draft with upside and a lot less drama, maybe not as talented, but still a lot less drama. Okay, and you can actually mold these guys. Some of these guys are actually coachable, right? This isn't Kyler's team by default anymore. He's gonna have to take the reins back. He's got to do it right now because everyone still wants Jacoby Brissett in there. Now, what can Monty do to help this team? Not just Kyler, but to help this entire team. All right, we talked about Breece Hall, Trey Hendrickson. I threw Micah Parsons in there early in the year. Okay, I even threw Max Crosby in there yesterday. Okay, there's one guy. So okay, this is gonna sound wild. Let's pretend for a second that we can pick up our PS5 controllers and play the NFL like we do in Madden, right? So you're gonna have to suspend disbelief for a couple minutes here. Bear with me, because what I'm about to suggest is wildly unlikely, sort of stupid, but it's fun to think about. Okay, so keep in mind, Brandon Graham just ended his retirement, opting to return to the Philadelphia Eagles after they lost to Darius Smith to retirement. If you saw Smith with the Eagles this season, the guy was barely a shell of himself, so he hung it up. Howie must have called B. Graham right away because that ball got rolling quick and he signed. So what if we did the same thing? What if we called up someone that just retired to come help his defense? Okay, and I thought we need a pass rusher, right? We need someone to get in there, defensive end, to scare the crap out of everybody, get in there and smack somebody. Maybe we don't have what it takes to get Trey Hendrickson. Maybe we don't have what it takes to get Max Crosby or even Daniel Hunter or whoever. Hell, and I thought of one guy. I'm not even going to call him a defensive man. I'm going to call him a football player. Let's not pigeonhole the guy because he was just a football player. He wrecked our offensive line for years. He beat up our quarterbacks. He terrified our running backs and straight up dominated. And seemed to retire with a lot left in the tank. So why not, Monty, hear me out, why not just make the call? Still this guy and come in and save our season. And maybe even our franchise for the next season or two. That guy, number 99, Aaron Donald. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. This is not nostalgia. This is a straight up Super Bowl move. And I did say Super Bowl, right? Maybe not this season, but certainly next season if he signs to play a couple years, okay? This roster is not rebuilding anymore, right? In my mind, this roster is ready. As long as Kyler's healthy and get his head out of his ass, the defense is going to be loaded here, okay? Sorry, offense is going to be loaded. The defense is young dogs everywhere, but, what it doesn't have is that guy, that dog, like the one dog you need. That one guy that changes the temperature in the room. And Aaron Donald is that guy. Even at 34, 35 years old, even coming off retirement, he's still going to be better than 95% of the league's defensive linemen today, right? There's no dynasty here. There's no Tom Brady. There's no Patrick Mahomes here. You beat the Niners, the Lions, maybe Philly, you're in, right? No Aaron Donald. One Aaron Donald level addition could literally tilt this entire division, surely, maybe even the conference. And think about this, okay? Donald coming back to haunt the Rams and Stafford in a Cardinals jersey, Hollywood-type vengeance, okay? And it's hard to say vengeance because he went out on top. He won a ring, retired, right? I'm sure he loves Matt Stafford and that whole team, okay? But still, it's got to be something inside Aaron Donald's mind and in his ego that says, I want to come back and do it for somebody else and shoot and prove I'm that guy no matter where I would have been, right? Look, these kids are hungry, these young guys. But Aaron Donald's a career finisher. He brings fear, accountability, and expectation, right? When he walks into the locker room, everyone gets dead serious real quick, all right? Jonathan Gannon coaching that defense, I think he would unleash absolute hell on opposing quarterbacks, right? This is not a fun idea. This would be a win now. It is a fun idea. Let's be honest, right? But it's a win now move, right? Because in 2025, look, I know we're 2-5, 2-5, 2-4, whatever, 2-5. But if you decide to try and go all in, at least for a playoff run, right? You don't hope for your young pass rush to develop, right? If we're really serious about making the playoffs, you go get a proven generational game-wrecking force, even if it's just for 1 year. It's a fun idea. It's incredibly unlikely. Probably not going to happen. In fact, I'm pretty damn sure it's not going to happen. But I was like, hell, Brandon Graham's coming out of retirement. We don't really have anyone that just retired, right, to come and make a huge difference. Let's call somebody else's guy. Why not? All right, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Cardinals Daily. I'm Eddie Cuevas. Don't forget to hit that sub button. It really helps out the channel. Send the video to your friends, and let's get the Red Sea in here, man. Let's make this thing huge. Make this thing huge. Who knows? Maybe we can get this channel so big that the Cardinals have to have us out there. That'd be dope, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Have a wonderful week. Bye week. Not a lot going on for us. So go ahead, have some fun, play some Madden, pretend like set Kyler's numbers to 99, and ball out. You guys have a wonderful week. Go Cardinals.